Again, it's a in fact a pleasure to be here at Diabetes at the 11th World Congress of Diabetes India. And at the outset, I would like to thank and congratulate the entire team of Diabetes India. More so, I would like to thank Dr. S.R. Arvind sir and Dr. Banshi Sabu sir for having me here at this prestigious platform. Thank you so much. And in and I would also like to thank the organizers for giving me such an interesting topic. It made me learn so many things, when we always keep on talking about carbs and proteins and fats, but this was such a complex thing. What I would like to take you through the journey from farm to fork. I think we mustn't have ever imagined what the journey would be of a nutrient. We hardly just eat, quickly whatever right it is in front of you, and we quickly eat and gulp, and that's it is done. But have we ever thought what is the complexities of the food it has to go from farm to the plate? Yes, believe me, this is the whole lot of journey what a food has to go. And there are variety of things which happens, that's not only food production. There's growing, harvesting, storage, packaging of food, and the different logistics which has to go while, but the food is going to be distributed till it reaches to the people. And then finally, what about the waste products, and then again, recycling for the food production. So the entire food gets exposed to high levels of heat, light, oxygen, and due to that it may lose lot of nutrients in that whole process. So this is the whole, I would be really taking you through the different processes what a food goes through. So first, like when the food is being grown, it's been harvested, like whether it's the crop or the livestock or the milking or the fishing, the different processes. So like they can be cutting, cleaning, packaging, miling, pasteurization. We will be talking a bit, about all these. And then finally, what about the packaging and the storage and the refrigeration? So these are the different procedures what a food undergoes, and we hardly have ever given a thought to these procedures. So let me take you through it one by one. What would be the effects of the different food processes? Like maybe we start first with the fertilizers. So the increased use of the nitrogen fertilizers may reduce vitamin C in most of the vegetables, fruits, or the crops. Miling, we know that miling may cause a lot of loss in the minerals, and we all know that the fiber, the husk in the wheat and in the rice, it contains a lot of dietary fiber. It contains B group vitamins and phytochemicals. And the conversion of whole wheat to white flour, when we from the whole wheat to maida or the atta, it results in a loss of around 16 to 80% of loss of micronutrients. So that is a big amount of loss. And when the food goes for blanching, in few of the foods we go for blanching of food. So it is blanching is like when the food is canned or frozen. It is usually heated very quickly with steam or water, and due to this process, some water soluble vitamins, it's mostly the vitamin C and B complex, which are very very versatile. I mean to say, they're very sensitive. That is why they are destroyed while in most of the processes. And this is one of the studies which has also shown that the blanching, for example, results in leaching of losses of vitamins and minerals, and also the miling and extrusion also causes in removal of minerals during processing. And this is the different vitamins and mineral losses we can see when the food is being frozen or in drying or cooking and drying. A big amount of vitamins are being lost when the food undergoes through all these processes. what happens when we are going to can the food, and now we see that a lot of canned foods are available on the shelf. So here we see that the food is heated inside the can to kill many dangerous microorganisms, and to just to increase the shelf life. The severe heat treatment may affect the taste and the texture, and also the soluble vitamins are lost when it undergoes heating. When we see a lot of freezing foods, and we I think most common of the frozen foods is the green peas and the corns, which are being used left and right in our kitchen. Usually the freezing do not cause any nutrient losses, but most of the nutrient losses are caused when the food is thawed. So thawing causes most of the losses, of the nutrient losses. Then it is the pasteurization, which involves liquid of heating of liquid foods like milk and fruit juices. And let me tell you, in case of pasteurized fruit juices, there's some amount of vitamin C which can be lost. Then another method is the high pressure processing. And this is again an alternative preservation method which subjects food to elevated pressures. But as heat is not required here, the process impacts less on the vitamin content, flavor, and the color. Then nowadays we see a lot of dehydrated foods as well on the shelf. So drying out foods, it can be whatever. We usually use dry kasturi methi as dried foods in our kitchen, or it can be other fruits and vegetables also. So these drying actually reduces the amount of vitamin C, but it can also concentrate other nutrients, particularly fiber. And fiber is not lost while when you are drying a food. And we also see a lot of food which is while the foods, if they are dehydrated and if we reconstitute and cook them with water, further nutrients are leached out in the food and lost in the cooking water. So in the way, we should not throw away the water in which we are cooking the food. So, and these are the different vitamins. Usually the most unstable vitamins is, we have seen the vitamin C and the folate, which is being lost when the food undergoes a lot of processing. And the stable vitamins are K, D, and vitamin B as well. Now, this is a wonderful study. In fact, the NIN has gone through data which they have released in their NIN in 2018, and which has suggested that the foods we eat today are less nutritious than what we used to consume just 3 decades ago. In fact, they saw that there was a reduction in the nutrient value of the fruits and the vegetables, what they have compared in the NIN, what we all refer 2011 and now in 2018. So there was a lot of changes, and so that is why the we can actually see that there's a lot of reduction in the nutrients. And probably one of the reasons can be that the soil also in different states of the country are different. So probably the macronutrient content or the chemical content, I'm not going to much in detail of this, but just one message what I would like to give you, that the soil of different states are different, and probably that is what is affecting the nutrition value of a particular food. And that is the reason why people are opting for organic farming. And organic farming is well defined by USFDA as a system which avoids or largely excludes the use of synthetic inputs, and to a maximum extent feasible rely upon crop rotations, crop residues, animal manures, and off-farm organic waste. So it's going more towards organic farming, and which also includes organic meat and dairy products. So these are the different logos what we should actually see for if we are if we want to look in for organic food. we want to choose an organic food. And moreover, when there is losses in a particular food, so that is why the Food Safety and the Standards Authority of India, FSSAI 2220, they have notified with certain norms of food fortification, maybe whether it is milk or rice or salt or oil and wheat flour, and they have set certain criteria of food fortification, and they have fixed up certain levels like iron has to be within the level of 1.4 to 1.7 in 100 grams of cereals. Vitamin C, usually vitamin C is lost in most of the fruit juices, so that is why it is always, you'll see that the fruit juices are always fortified with vitamin C. So fortification is a way, is an answer to most of the queries, what arises due to food processes. And HFSS says like the high fat, sugar and salt food shall be excluded from the fortified processed foods. Then another important aspect in this process is food labeling, which is very, very important. And the FSSAI has also laid guidelines about it, and it labels a lot of things, which probably I think we should make people understand. Not only we usually see only the date of expiry and manufacturing, but I think there is a lot more what we need to look into the food labeling. At least the nutritional information is what we need to look into. Then goes the packaging, and let me again tell you, this again is a very, very important aspect, because we have to protect the food from the physical, chemical and biological sources, and so that there is food security everywhere. And for that reason, we have HACCP, which is the hazard analysis and critical control points, which is recognized system for reducing the risk of safety hazards in foods, and it recognizes the biological, chemical and physical agents, and they have a lot of steps. In fact, they have a full team of audit, and these audits are being done at places to perform a hazard analysis. They determine critical control points. They have their own critical limits, and they monitor the system very closely, and they establish or record keeping procedures. So HACCP team is actually very, very important and playing a very important role in controlling the quality of the food when it reaches to the people. So these are again the different labels which you can actually look in for, because there are different things for the drinking water and certain processed foods. There's the ISI mark, FSSAI have their own logo, then agricultural products, and the green dots and the maroon dots, which we all know about. After the food has been packaged, labeled, and gone through all the audits, the time comes for the food distribution. And the Food and the Agriculture Organization considers food distribution as a very important aspect when the food is collected from the producers and it goes to the warehouses and different manufacturers, the groceries, the restaurants, the cafeterias, and also to each and every of our homes. Now the thing is important when we are going to cook the food. And let me tell you that cooking affects the nutrient content of the foods, and there are a number of studies which has shown how we can actually enhance the availability of the healthy nutrients through proper selection of the method of cooking. We all know that cooking has ample of benefits. Most of it is the most important is that it creates food, it makes the food palatable, and it also helps to destroy the bacteria and other harmful organisms that can contaminate. It breaks down the toxins, and it makes certain phytochemicals that are unavailable in some raw food, which makes it available. And the best example is tomatoes. The lycopene becomes more available when it is cooked. So this is very important. So that is why cooking is very, very important. Then comes the washing of vegetables and fruits, and I think pandemic has taught us beautifully and thoroughly that yes, we need to give more emphasis on washing of vegetables and fruits, and Center of Disease Control and Prevention has its own guidelines. And this is something what I have very, very important, that we do not have to wash our fruits and vegetables with soap, detergent, or any commercial produce wash. We do not should not use any bleach solution. Only simple water with some amount of salt is good enough to clean the fruits and the vegetables. Keep fruits and vegetables separate from raw foods and the other animal poultry foods. We need to refrigerate the fruits and the vegetables within 2 hours after you cut, peel, or cook them. So these are very important guidelines which we have been learning since last 1 year. So do not wash the food, grains, and vegetables repeatedly, as it will result in loss of nutrients. Then there are again different methods what we actually follow every day, maybe whether it is soaking or steaming or boiling. So soaking also helps to reduce some anti-nutritional factors like phytates and tannins. The moment if we soak the chola or the rajma, it helps to reduce the phytates, and it increases the nutrient availability of the protein and the minerals in the food. Steaming is supposed to be the best method, and especially if the people are looking, if patients are looking for weight loss. So this is something best method where we usually prescribe, because it also helps to preserve maximum nutrients. So steaming is something what we highly recommend. Boiling of food at 100 degrees centigrade is another important thing, which destroys the vitamin C and vitamin B, and it also helps. But however, it preserves the omega-3 fatty acids while boiling the food. What we can do is, like, you can retain the food in which the food has been boiled, and that food and that water can be used to make our gravies, soups, or even we can also knead our dough. And these are the root vegetables. Usually, whether it is potatoes or it is sweet potatoes or even arbi, so we should always boil them with skins, so that it helps us to retain the nutrients of the food. Fermentation is another very important, because it helps to maintain the gut health and improve the immunity. So fermentation is, most of the foods like your dosa and idli or dhokla, these are all fermented foods. But let me tell you, the glycemic index of these foods are very high. So that is why we also ask them to add more of fibers, whether it is tomatoes or onions, and add a lot of vegetables to these fermented foods. And fermentation of the milk into curd, so that is also helpful, because the lactose gets converted into lactic acid, and this is also helpful for the people who have lactose intolerance. And yogurt and fermented milks have a higher antioxidant activity than milk. So then again is the sauteing and stir frying, and this again is the most favorite of all of us, but because it needs a shorter time to cook, it needs less of oil, and it prevents loss of B vitamins. So whenever you have green leafy vegetables like broccoli or cabbage or green peppers, try to opt for sauteing. Um, then again, I would like to focus on the alterations of the low molecular weight carbohydrates. I mean to say, like, when the food are going for blanching, like, so same whether it's there's a considerable loss of low molecular weight carbohydrates, that's the monosaccharides and the disaccharides, and even of the micronutrients. So whenever the carrots or the peas are blanched, there is a considerable loss of these carbohydrates, and losses can be minimized if by using small amounts or by adding back the processed water. So kindly use the water in which you are being boiling the food. After all this, another important aspect is the food wastage. And let me tell you, friends, the amount of the food wastage in 2016 is almost 92,650 crore. So I mean to say, that is a big number what India has to pay for the food wastage. And again, this is a very important line, 50 kgs of food wasted per person per year in Indian homes. So it's not only about growing and cooking and processing, but it is also important that it's high time that we need to save our food for tomorrow. And this again is a this is a nice paper which shows the impact of transportation, storage, and retail shelf conditions on lettuce quality and phytonutrient losses in the supply chain. And we can see that there is a decline in the ascorbic acid, chlorophyll, and carotenoids when the food is being transported, storage, till it reaches to the retailers. So now I'm going to come to the how we can actually how can we actually increase the vitamins. Yes, you can go for sprouting of vegetables, which helps to increase the vitamin C and vitamin B and fiber as well. Cook in the iron utensils. You can also resistant starch is something very important, which it helps to lower the glycemic index of the foods when the foods which are cooked and cooled. So like say maybe the basa rice or the basi roti or something, they have resistant starches and which helps to blunt the blood glucose. So these are the tips what you can actually do in your day-to-day life. We need to eat fresh vegetables and keep them at a cold place. Keep fresh fruits and vegetables, dairy and juice products. Buy fresh foods in smaller quantities and use them fresh. Need not load your fridge with lot of stuff. Choose fresh, local, and seasonal fruits. This is very, very important. The more the food is travel, if the travel time of any food is more the nutrient losses. Avoid peeling the foods like cucumbers, carrots, radish, and apples. Cut salads and fruits just before eating. Avoid food exposure to prevent vitamin losses. And similarly, you have to cook for a short.
Kavita, can you wind up?
Yes. So finally, one important thing is, again, I would like to add that the vegetable stock and the whey water, which we used for the protein, they are a good source of protein. So do not drain the water in the of the vegetables and the rice what you are cooked. So again, we need to promote kitchen gardening. And yes, I think there are enough nutrients what we may get enough nutrients if we follow the right method. And I would just quickly, just in 2 minutes, I would just like to focus on, this is an assignment which has been just given to me. And I would just like to focus on the PRIDE study, which is open label randomized controlled study to evaluate partial meal replacement program with Prohance D, which is targeting the glycemic levels and the weight control in type 2 diabetics. And here I would like to say that once there were two arms, which were one arm, they were given Prohance D plus, which was with the standard of care versus only standalone, the standard of care. And there were around 176 patients across 5 centers were given. And I would just like to focus on the results. They were actually they were seen for the glycemic control for the patients using Prohance D, and the standard of care was seen. And let me just come, and they were checked for the weight, waist circumference, postprandial glucose, and the fasting glucose, and the lipid profile was measured. And also along with that, the quality of life was also measured. I would like to focus like there was significant more reduction was seen in the HbA1c, postprandial blood glucose, fasting glucose, weight, and the waist circumference in the test group as compared to the non-treatment group. And there was also difference in the significant between the groups in the favor of the test arm at week 6 for HbA1c. So this is these are the different arms which we can see that there was a reduction in A1c, in weight, and also the waist circumference in the arm where the Prohance D was given. So the PRIDE study pridely concludes that the partial meal replacement with ProHands-D, it resulted in significant reduction of HbA1c, weight, and waist circumference when compared to standard of care in patients with type 2 diabetes, and was well tolerated. So that is why I think the take home message also can be that the partial meal replacement can be considered as an useful tool on as well, along with pharmacotherapy and lifestyle modifications, to achieve good glycemic control and weight reduction in type 2. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kavita.